Have you ever felt totally lost inside a Linux terminal? Yeah, you're not alone. But what if I told you there's a map, a blueprint to the entire system that once you get it, makes everything just click? Well, that map is the Linux file system, and today we're going on a tour. We're going to start right at the beginning, the root directory. Now, before we go anywhere, you have to wrap your head around one core, kind of mind-bending idea. Everything in Linux is a file. And when I say everything, I mean everything. And look, this isn't just some fancy metaphor. Your system's configuration settings, those are files. The hardware devices, your hard drive, your printer, they're all represented as files. Even the commands you type into the terminal. Yep, you guessed it. Those are files too. This one idea is the key that unlocks the whole Linux universe. So what's the best way to prove this big idea? Let's kick off our tour by looking at something you use all the time, commands. Where do they actually live? This is where it gets really fun. Okay, our first stop is a directory called /bin, and to make it easy to remember, let's just call it Ben. Inside Ben's house, the bin directory, live all the essential command binaries. These are the actual programs that run when you type a command. Now, this is a wild demonstration that proves our point perfectly. Let's take the ls command, the one you use to list files. It is itself just a file. We can literally make a copy of it. Let's call it network chuck. Then we can actually delete the original ls command using rm. And if you try to run it, poof, it's gone. But our copy, network chuck, it works just fine. Then we can just copy it back. This just powerfully shows that commands are just files you can move, copy, and delete like anything else. So we've just seen a command file in action. Now let's really explore the system's toolbox and see where all these powerful tools are kept. All right, so we've met Ben, the bin directory, home to essential commands for every single user, like ls and cp. But Ben has a twin, sbin, and I like to call him superben. Superben holds the special, extra powerful commands for system administration, things like add user for creating new users. These are the tools that are reserved for the people managing the system. Okay, let's keep building on that. Our next big stop on this tour is USR, which stands for user. This is another massive part of the file system, and it's absolutely packed with programs, libraries, and data for everyone using the system. And this is where things get a little weird. See, inside USR, you're going to find another bin and another sbin directory. So why the duplication? Well, it's kind of a history thing from back when hard drives were tiny. It was all about keeping the core system separate from the apps users installed. The main thing to remember is they do the same job, but the USR directories will often have way more commands. And, of course, that raises a pretty good question. When you type a command like ls, how in the world do you know if you're running the one from /bin or the one from /usr/bin? It's simple, actually. You use the which command. Just type which ls, and it'll tell you the exact path to the file that's being executed. It's an incredibly useful little tool for figuring out where your commands actually live. Okay, we've seen where the commands, our tools, live. Now let's go a little deeper into the system's engine room and check out the core directories that keep this whole machine humming. All right, let's do a quick speed round for some other key spots. /boot, well, that's for booting the system. Easy. /bar, that holds variable data that changes all the time, like log files. /temp, that's for temporary files that get wiped clean when you reboot. And /lib, that stores shared libraries, little pieces of code that tons of different programs need to run. See? It all kind of makes sense when you break it down. So where do we, the people, live on the system? Well, every regular user gets their own personal space inside the /home directory. But there's one special user, the all-powerful admin known as root, who doesn't live there. Root gets an exclusive, private mansion all to itself, located right at /root. Okay, let's bring it back to that core principle. Check out the /dev directory, which stands for devices. This is where that everything is a file idea gets really, really wild. Your actual physical hard drive, it's represented right here as a file, probably called something like VDA or SDA. And it's not a shortcut. It is the drive. You could literally read the raw data right off this file. It's very cool and also a little weird. What about settings? All the little knobs and dials for your system? They all live in etc, which some folks call etc. This directory is like the central control panel for the whole system. You want to change your computer's IP address?
You'd probably go into a file like etsy/network/interfaces and just edit the text. It's all just files.
And finally, what about when you plug something in, like a USB drive? Well, it'll often get automatically connected or mounted to a directory inside/media. But if you want to connect a drive yourself using commands, you'd typically do that in the /mnt directory. Either way, that external drive just becomes another folder in your file system. So we've just flown through the Linux universe, but why does this map even matter? Well, because knowing where things are and where they're supposed to go is a genuine superpower when you're working in Linux. And hey, along the way, you picked up some fundamental tools. We saw how commands like cp to copy and rm to remove are just files themselves. We talked about adduser and saw examples with cat. And you learned how to use which to find exactly where those commands are located. These are the real building blocks of becoming comfortable in Linux. So the big takeaway here is that this map we've been exploring isn't random. It actually has a name, the File System Hierarchy Standard, or FHS. It's a standard that makes sure that no matter what Linux system you log into, you'll have a really good idea of where to find the commands, the logs, the configs, everything you need to get stuff done. You know, this tour really just scratches the surface. Think of it as your first orientation. The Linux file system is vast, and there's so much more to discover. So now that you have the map to the universe, the only question